Welcome back to my channel and welcome to my March mid-month wrap-up. I cannot believe that we are already into the middle of March and this month has gone by so quickly, and I am filming this on the 16th of March and I have read 14 books so far this month, and I'm just going to run through the books that I've read and share my thoughts and feelings. As I say, every month at the end of the month I will do a full breakdown of stats, but for this month, for the mid-month, I just run through the books that I have read. So let's start with the first book that I finished in March, which was Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix, and I gave this one 3 stars. I liked this one, but it wasn't my favourite from Grady Hendrix. In this one we are following a group of young women who get pregnant at very young ages and they are sent away to this home because they are unmarried, and I think it's set in the 70s if I recall, and so at that time it's still very much frowned upon to be pregnant outside of wedlock, and so their families send them away to this home where they are due to give birth to their baby and then basically are forced to give it up for adoption before going back to their normal lives. This is based on real life experiences. These type of homes did exist, and there is like a little hint of witchcraft in here. The girls get become in possession of a spell book and they start dabbling with witchcraft. I was expecting more from this book, I'm not going to lie. I thought that this was going to be a lot darker and have a lot more aspects of the witchcraft, but I felt that the witchcraft element was very much almost like a minor part of the book, considering it's part of the title. I was expecting more. There are some very graphic descriptions of giving birth, and so if that is not your thing, I would avoid this one because they are quite graphic, and I did feel a little bit squeamish when I was reading some of those scenes. But overall it was an okay read, but not necessarily a favourite. Then I read A Dawn of Onyx by Kate Golden, and I gave this one 3 stars. So in this one we are following Arwen, and she is basically taken in by the king. Her brother owes a debt to the king, and she sacrifices herself instead of her brother and says, take me instead, and she works as a healer in the castle, and she actually has some magical powers, and she doesn't realise who the king is initially because he disguises himself as another prisoner, and he eventually obviously reveals that he is the king, and it kind of goes from there. I liked the premise and the startup of this one, but it did definitely feel like very much like a first book in a series, in terms of there was a lot of information being given, and I can definitely see potential in the story. So I have and will be reading the second book in this series, but yeah, this one was just an okay start to the series for me, but I do see potential for the rest of the books. Then I read Not in My Book by Katie Holt, which I gave 3 stars to. This book felt very similar to other books I've read. So in this one we have, let me just look up their names again, Rosie and Aidan, and they are at college and both of them want to be writers. Rosie wants to write romance and Aidan wants to write literary fiction. And they really don't get on. They argue quite a lot in class, and are quite they put each other down quite a lot, and it can be quite rude in the class. And so finally the teacher of the class has had enough of them and threatens to kick them out, which they argue about, and then as a compromise the professor basically says, well, you can pair up together and write a story together, combining both of your talents, but learning how to work together and learning how to appreciate like each other's genres. And it's obviously a romance between the two, and they are writing a romance as well as they are slowly developing feelings for one another. So the characters in their books in the book that they're writing are basically kind of a bit of a mirror of them in real life. And we do get to see snippets of the book, which isn't always my favourite. I like reading books that feature books and, you know, a character that loves reading and things like that, or a bookshop or things like that, but I don't necessarily like reading a book within a book, and that is what was going on in here. And as I say, it just felt very similar to other stories that I'd read. Notably, there's one by Emily Henry that does something very similar, and I'm sure I've read other ones as well where the guy writes literary fiction, he looks down on the woman for writing romance, and they then slowly fall in love with each other. It just was okay, like there was nothing really memorable about it, and as I say, very similar to other ones I've read. Then I read The Baby Dragon Cafe by A.T. Qureshi, I think is how you say it, and this one was also 3 stars. So this one is a romance. It is like a cozy fantasy romance, and this one has dragons, but it has dragons, but it's very much set in a, like, our world. It's not like a fantastical world, apart from there is dragons. But and I saw someone else write this in their review and I couldn't stop thinking about it, but if you replace the dragons with dogs, like apart from like the scenes about like them where they were breathing fire and flying, like it was very interchangeable. You could change the word dragon to dog and the story would have still worked. This one was just okay. So we have the cafe owner who is called Saphira, I think is how you say her name, and there was another character the male character's called Aiden, and Saphira is very sunshiny and Aiden is very not. He's definitely the opposite. He is very grumpy and he has a bit of trauma from his past. His brother passed away due to a dragon flying related incident, and he is left with his brother's dragon egg, which gets hatched, and he employs Saphira to basically train his dragon because he doesn't really want to and he's been struggling with it, and the dragon is brings these two together, and it was just okay. Like, it was cute, but there wasn't again really anything memorable about it, and as I say, you could easily replace the word dragon with dog and this story would have still worked. So it was a little bit disappointing. I was kind of hoping for a bit more fantasy, but yeah. And then the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books I mentioned in my last weekend reading vlog, where I read a bunch of new releases. So I won't go too much into detail here, but I will leave the link to the vlog down below because I did talk about them a lot more in that video. So we have Remember When by Mary Balogh, which is book 4 in the Ravenswood series, and I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars, so it broke the 3-star spell that I was having, and this one we follow Clarissa, who is the mother of some of the characters that we've seen in previous books. So we do have a older heroine and hero in this book. Clarissa is nearly 50 and Matthew Taylor, who is the hero, is of a similar age as well. And they were childhood best friends, and due to he's a second son and she's the first daughter, and so they weren't able to marry when they were younger, because of obviously their different stations in life, and so Clarissa has got married to someone else, has had children, has brought up her family, and she is now a widow, and she very much discusses about like what is her role now. Now she is not obviously, as a young woman and a young girl, her role was to find a husband, make a good match. Then when she was married, it was to be a good wife, be a good mother, provide heirs for her husband and run the household and raise her family. And now she is a widow and all of her children are grown up and have made their own matches. She is very much questioning now, what is my role in life? And I found really interesting because I feel like we don't see that very much in historical romances. And this one I listened to on audiobook, and Rosalind Lander narrates it, and she is one of my favourite audiobook narrators, so I would definitely recommend that one. Then I read Dream Girl Drama by Tessa Bailey, and if you watch my vlog, you will know that I really did not enjoy this book. So this one I gave 2 stars. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this one. This one follows, what were their names? Sig and Chloe, and they meet each other. Sig's car breaks down and he ends up stopping off at a country club and meets Chloe, and they do have a bit of a connection when they first meet, and then they later find out that they are going to be step siblings, so the relationship can't go any further than that. And then they do develop a very close friendship, and they, throughout the whole book, they are very much wanting to be with each other. I would say more on a physical level rather than an emotional level. And we go through this, like, you know, will they, won't they type thing. And eventually they do, obviously. And the reason that they are able to get together, I won't spoil it in here, but I do spoil it in the vlog, I feel was very convenient and not... it didn't make sense to me, because certain people knew certain information that could have sped this book along a lot quicker if that information had been shared. Yeah, this one I just feel was very much a physical based romance. There wasn't really the emotional connection between them, and yeah, I didn't necessarily love this one, wouldn't recommend it. Then I read First Time Caller by B.K. Borison, which I would recommend. I did really enjoy this one, and in this one we are following another Aidan. Aidan is obviously a popular name, and Lucy. Aidan hosts a radio show that deals with like people calling in about their romance troubles, and he gives advice on that. And on one of his shows, a young girl calls in and basically is telling him about her mother and how she's lonely because she's never dated the entire time that her daughter's been alive. And Lucy ends up talking to Aidan on the show, and their romance kind of goes from there. I really enjoyed this one. I would definitely recommend it. I haven't read any other B.K. Borison books before, and I've heard that some people who have read her other books have said this one's not as good as her other ones. So if this one's not as good as her other ones, then I'm very excited to read her other ones, because I really enjoyed this one. I love seeing the romance develop in this one. Aidan definitely falls first for Lucy, and I really love seeing that. So that was that one. Then I read The Starlight Heir by Amelie Howard, and this one I gave... I think I gave it 3.5 stars. I gave this one. So this one is the first book in a new fantasy series by Amelie Howard, and in this one we are following Soraya and Roshan, and Soraya is invited to the palace. She initially thinks it's for some ball, but it turns out that it's going to be a almost like trial to win the hand of the prince, and the prince, I can't remember what the prince is called, but it's not Roshan. Roshan's his brother, and the prince is very cruel, and some of the challenges that they girls have to go through are very cruel. On the first night they have to answer a riddle, and if they don't get the riddle right they aren't allowed to go into dinner and then get sent to the dungeon for the night, and it's a very cruel circumstance that she's put into, and she never really she wasn't interested in marrying a prince or any of it, and she ends up forming a connection with Roshan, who is the prince's brother, and it kind of goes from there. This one was okay. I felt like the middle part got a little bit boring and not a lot was happening, and I did feel that some elements of it were really slow, and then other elements I felt were really rushed, and the ending was really rushed. I felt there was a lot that happened, definitely building up to a cliffhanger in preparation for the second book. I am not sure if I'm going to pick up the second book, because I'm not sure when the second book's going to be released, and if it's going to be a long time between this release and the second book, then I'm not sure if I'm going to want to necessarily revisit this one. I'm not sure if it's one that I am like super invested in, but it was okay. Like, it just wasn't my favourite thing. Then I listened to The Catch by Amy Lee. This one didn't feature in my vlog, but I did listen to it whilst that vlog was taking place. And this follows Melanie and Evan. And this series is a book, I think the series is called Influencers. So each book, the female main character is a influencer of some sort. So we've had like a fitness influencer, and then I think last book was a like booktuber. And in this one is just like a fashion influencer, and she gets invited to this resort in Canada. She's from the US, and she's going to film content there, and she ends up getting like the dates muddled, or the resort gets the dates muddled, so she ends up in this small town in Canada. It's a fishing town, and she ends up needing somewhere to stay, so she finds this rundown Airbnb, which is owned by Evan, and it is their romance. Evan is very grumpy. He's not really interested in Melanie at all. He finds her a bit frivolous, and she's very, I would say she's very stereotypical in some ways. She's like scared of spiders, and it's very not very outdoorsy. It feels like a very stereotypical type of character, but I really like the romance in this one. I did give this one 4 stars. I think that it was a really good audiobook. It was definitely enjoyable and definitely worth a listen. I've liked all of the books by this author. I think I've given all of them 4 stars, so would definitely recommend this one. Then I read The Rebel Witch by Kristen Cicerelli. This one I absolutely loved and gave 5 stars to. In this one's the sequel to The Crimson Moth, and we are following Rune and Gideon. Rune is a witch, and Gideon is the witch hunter who is tasked to kill her, and it is their romance. This one is young adult, but it was really good. It picked up straight where the first book left off, and I had a really good time reading this. Would definitely recommend checking this one out. And then I think I've got a few more left. We had Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin, I think is how you say it, and this one was another 5-star read as well. This one is very similar to the Crimson Moth series, so I'd say if you like the Crimson Moth series, pick this book up, and if you like this book, pick up the Crimson Moth series. We have another case of a witch and a witch hunter, and in this one, again, it's you're not allowed to be a witch in this world, and our female main character is a witch, and she ends up in a forced marriage with the head witch hunter, and she's obviously got to try and keep that a secret from him, and the relationship grows between them, and they do slowly start to fall for one another. I really like this one. I like the way the story ended, and I'm very excited to pick up book 2. Then we have Heartstopper Volume 1 by Alice Oseman. I gave this one 3 stars. This one is extremely popular, and I just thought I'd pick it up just for like something a bit light to read. It's a graphic novel, which isn't necessarily my favourite format, but I thought I'd give it a try. It was an okay story. It follows Nick and Charlie, and it is a young adult series again. Charlie is openly out as gay, and he befriends Nick. He is put into the same form as Nick, and they start getting closer in terms of a friendship, and as their friendship develops, Nick slowly starts questioning his feelings for Charlie, whether they are, you know, more than friendship, this is obviously a graphic novel, so it's volume 1, so it does cut off where the story's not quite complete, but we cut off where Nick's kind of starting to question his feelings, and there's obviously going to be a romance in the future volumes. I thought it was cute, it was okay, but nothing nothing that I really loved, but it was just okay. Then I read Portrait of a Scotsman by Evie Dunmore, and this one I gave 4 stars to. This one is the third book in the Extraordinary Women series, or League of Extraordinary Women series, and I enjoyed this one. This one follows Hattie Greenfield and Lucien Blackstone. Hattie Greenfield is the daughter of this very wealthy banker, and she is arranged to be married to Lucien Blackstone, and Lucien Blackstone is very much a self-made man, but he is wanting to get further in society, and to do so he obviously needs a very wife of a certain from a certain family. And so Hattie fits that bill, and they are forced together. Neither of them are really wanting to be together, but they are forced together, and their romance slowly develops. I really enjoyed this one. I liked seeing the relationship slowly develop between them. I thought that the way that Lucien softened for Hattie was really nice, because he was very much a stern character, but for Hattie he would do anything for her, and I just love that relationship progression in this one. And then lastly, I finished this one today, so this one's only just made it into the video, but it is Reckless by Lauren Roberts, and I finished the audiobook for this one and I loved it. It's 5 stars, it was great. I really enjoyed this one. In this one we have Paden and Kai, and it picks up where the first book left off, and Kai has been obviously tasked with bringing Paden back to the kingdom to face punishment for the events that happened at the end of the first book, and she's basically on the run and he's chasing after her. But for a second book these characters do spend the majority of the book together. Kai quickly catches up to her, and he obviously is in the process of bringing her back to the kingdom, and that we obviously see their journey, and it's very much their feelings for one another that are very palpable. There's a lot of tension in this book because they very clearly have feelings, but obviously because she is now a criminal and he's obviously the one that needs to bring her in, they're obviously struggling with that. And the ending for this one literally had my jaw dropping. When I was listening to the audiobook, I was like, oh my god, I can't believe this is happening and the book is about to finish, because this book very much ends on a cliffhanger, as did the first book, and the third book is not yet out. I think it comes out at the beginning of April, and I cannot wait to get this one in my hands, because I need to find out what's going to happen. I think it's going to be really good. I think it's just going to be a trilogy, so hopefully everything gets all wrapped up in the next book, and I can't wait to see what this author does with the story. Really, really excited, cannot wait. So those are all of the books that I have read so far this month. You will note that I have not read any from my March TBR, but I am working on a few, so hopefully by the end of the month I'll be able to say that I have read them all, or at least some of them. I'm aiming to read all, but if not, at least some of them. But that is all I have for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in my next one.